Series Tillers Bodybuilding, episode 2 of In the Gym with John Livia. So today we're going to be doing a back routine. So if you guys watched the last one, I do a lot of warm-up sets before I start doing any kind of working sets. So every time I do my back routine, I start with some pull-ups, either 3 to 4 sets of pull-ups, and then I go right to lat pull-down. So that's what we're going to start off with. But we're going to basically do compound movements plus some pulling movements at the same time and try to get a good hardcore back routine. We're in LA Fitness, so we're going to do the best we can, but we'll make it work. All right, here we go. We're gonna do probably 3 or 4 sets of that, just to get the blood flowing, get some warm-up sets in, and then we'll get into some a real good back routine. So I did a couple of pull-ups for warm-up sets. I'm going to do a couple of lat pull-downs as warm-up sets, and then we're going to jump into some working sets. So in this one, I'm going to be doing some wide grip. Not super wide, but wide enough to activate those back muscles. And again, I don't do much scientific labels. We're training back and starting off nice and easy, but we're going to get into it real hard. So here we go. That's enough of the warm-ups. We're going to get into some heavier weight now and start moving some weight and start growing the back. Took a pre-workout before I came here, and I took one of the cheap ones with a lot of stim, so I'm not going to be able to stop talking. Cheap one's got the most stim. This good one's got the most product, and it tastes horrible, but it is what it is. All right, here we go. Sometimes people ask me, do you train light or do you train heavy? And the truth is, you gotta do both. You gotta move a lot of weight for a lot of reps. That's how bodybuilding moves. That's how bodybuilding builds muscle. Heavy weight for a lot of reps. Now, what might be heavy for me might not be heavy for the next person, vice versa, but that's how to grow muscle. Get those reps in, move that weight. If you feel like if you're strong that day and you can only get 3 or 4 or 5 reps out of one set, do a drop set immediately. Get those reps in. That's what grows that muscle. We're not powerlifters. under a minute. Most of the time, 30 seconds, 45 seconds. Under a minute, definitely. You just want to keep that blood in the muscle and keep going and keep pushing. This is old school training, baby. Now we're gonna go to some compound movements. We're gonna do some one-arm rows. Here we go. All right, unfortunately we're in LA Fitness, and this LA Fitness only goes up to 100-pound dumbbells. Next time I do back, I'll make sure I'm in Strong and Shapely where they go up to 200-pound dumbbells. Not that I moved to 200s, but I definitely row more than 100. So we're gonna do these one-arm rows with a lot of reps, and try not to spend much time in between sets. All right, here we go. Your back and put thickness on your back. You gotta do compound movements. You gotta do one-arm rows. You gotta do deadlifts or rack pulls, bent over rows, seated rows. And like I said, you gotta do a lot of reps, heavy weight. Go till failure. See if you go past failure. Drop sets, supersets, whatever it takes. My back and my shoulders were always the weakest part of my body. Not as far as strength, but as far as growing. So I always had to put a lot into those workouts to just see any kind of progress. And that's a mistake a lot of people make. They like to train the body parts that make progress, which is great. But you really need to do the opposite. You need to train hard the body parts that don't grow as fast. So for me, my chest, my legs, never had a problem. But when I'm in here and I'm doing back or shoulders, I gotta get busy because very difficult, always was very difficult for me to put some size on those body parts. But let's keep going. On the last video we did, somebody made a comment. I was breathing heavy. Somebody made a comment that I need to get my heart checked because I shouldn't be breathing this heavy. And my attitude is, if you're not breathing heavy, you're wasting your time. What's the point of going to the gym if you don't get your heart rate up and sweat and breathe heavy and do the work? Otherwise, just going through the motions, right? There's that saying I think Brent Warren made famous: train insane or stay the same. He wasn't lying. Holy shit. All right. That's the last set for that one. All right, moving on to plate-loaded rows. The cedar row is taken, so just gonna jump on the plate-loaded row. This is a low row. Really stimulates your lats. And we're just gonna get it in and get it in hard. Here we go. Next movement is bent over rows on the Smith machine. I always like doing them on this. I know you should probably do bent over rows, free weight, but I always liked it on the Smith machine because for some reason I was always able to like activate my back more on the Smith machine when it came to bent over rows. So it's just personal preference. I just prefer to do it on the Smith machine. I always got better results out of it, and now let's get rocking and rolling. Try to keep it low to my waist to hit lower lats. I tend to have a high lat insertion, so I try to do, anytime I do a pull, I try to bring it down to my down to my waist or my hips or my belly button, so I can activate the lower lat. I know at this point in my life it's ridiculous, but I've just gotten accustomed to do that. You grow accustomed to training your weaknesses so you can get the best out of them. And even though at my point it doesn't really matter because I'm 49, just tend to do it that way, knowing that that's my weakest point and I got to get it done. Don't get me wrong, there are days I come in here and I go, I'm just doing pulleys today. I don't want to do any heavy movements, but that's few and far between. You can take the tiger out of the jungle, can't take the jungle out of the tiger. That's the way it goes. All right, next one. Like I said before, I only got 5 reps out of that one, so let's do a drop set and get it in. now we're gonna do is bent over rows, but with dumbbells. Because I did 3 sets, but one was a drop set. So I'm gonna go into bent over rows with dumbbells, and we'll be done with the heavy movements. Then we'll go into like some kind of pulley, and that's pretty much we're done with the back routine. But I change up my workouts all the time. I mean, I keep the basics in. You know, I do the compound movements, the rows, the one-arm rows, bent over rows. Sometimes I'll do rack pulls. But it's never the same workout twice. It just gets boring. You know, what the hell, you know, it's like thinking about going to work and doing the same fucking job every day. You kill yourself. Same kind of thing. Last movement for back today. I don't know what these are called. You can Google it. I forget. But this is a good finishing movement. Nice and light, and just activates those lats. So we'll get it in. The worst of it. One more set, and we're done. All right, here we go. Concludes the second edition of In the Gym with John Livia. So remember, like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Series of Sundays Bodybuilding, and we will be back soon to part 3 of In the Gym with John Livia. Later, peace.